owners, especially, and I'm going to be very direct on this, of affected people who are currently residing in those houses. So not just residents, but affected people. What I mean by this is because right now, there are people who feel like they are house owners or land owners. It's rightfully so, until that dispute is sorted by the National Land Commission. But then, once it is sorted, then that clarity will be there that if they are landowners, according to the National Land Commission, they will be the people affected. If they are not, according to the Land Commission, then they will be tenants.
If they're landowners, there's no project we'll be doing there.
Exactly. That's why I say people's affected.
So there'll be no need for any participation.
Exactly. So, no, but still, maybe you want to renegotiate.
We'll have no interest there.
Right?
We'll have no
yeah, and that's why I said this is a value recommendation. So, in the sense that,
do you call the people who have the tenancy, or the people who live in the houses, or the people who are in the extensions?
We will call the people,
or the ones who want houses.
We will call the people as defined by the National Land Commission.
They can't define, Chair. Chair, I have a house. Nimepatia huyu nyumba. Yeye anaishi Kilimani. But kuna mtu hapo anaishi. Niite yeye akuje mkutano ama ule anaishi kwa hiyo nyumba ama ule kwa extension.
Chair, it is very clear just in terms of guidance.
Yes.
The county government, the people claiming that property are tenants. They are known. They are tenants who pay the county government. Yeah, so everybody will have an interest, including me who doesn't live there.
Yeah. So
in terms of as a leader in Nairobi, but the public participation that we are talking about is with the residents.
Residents or tenants?
The residents are the tenants. The ones who pay you money.
You don't understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. You have tenants, people who pay you money.
Yeah, but those are the don't live there.
Those are the people who I'm talking about.
So those who live there, or those who pay us?
You are tenants.
Okay, that's clear.
The people who you've given the houses.
That is clear.
Because that is the people you have a direct relationship with. If you demolish that house, the only relationship that is affected is between the tenant and the landlord.
And that's why I said, Governor, that affected house owners, in the sense that
we don't
right now
have owners, Chair.
No, wait.
No owners. You know, this is a house of record.
Just wait. And I've said quote unquote, in the sense that there is a pending issue under National Land Commission on ownership question. I want us to get there.
Chair, allow us how we can finish this
moment.
meeting, please. It's already 6. Chair, you did very well.
Chair,
just allow me, please.
Just a moment. Let me just make clarity. We have observed here that there's an issue of ownership that is lying with the National Land Commission. That question, Senate cannot resolve. That definition, the Senate cannot resolve. And that's why I'm saying the public participation can only happen after the National Land Commission has pronounced itself on this issue. Okay? So what we are saying here is that, Governor, the recommendation here is you only hold that public participation after the National Land Commission, which we have directed the associations to make sure they attend. You only hold that meeting after that National Land Commission pronouncement. And therefore, that means that based on that definition, then you will invite the people based on that definition. Because I don't want to assume, what Sifuna said, that it's not what you want that might not being defined. If the National Land Commission, for instance, says that those residents, as you call them, own their houses, then they're the people who must participate there. If they say otherwise, then they're the tenant. So I think that we're saying the same thing, but I'm leaving it to proper record.
Maybe why don't you wait, Chair, with due respect to, why don't you wait for that outcome?
Exactly.
Because, you know, Senate doesn't, you don't rule in vain. So once that outcome comes out, then you can just communicate a resolution to us. You don't have to figure it out now. But we know generally what we want to do.
You see, Chair, I think just allow us to also guide a bit. And I think the governor has just said it. Let us not pronounce ourselves in vain as a committee. There is a serious determination pending before the National Land Commission. If they say that the tenants own the land, that story ends there. You know, the county government can appeal or whatever, but they will have no status on that land. If they say the land belongs to the county government of Nairobi, then as a committee, we can make a resolution on, then there are human beings who live here. How do you treat these human beings who live on your land and they have lived here for this number of years? Before that happens, I don't think we can even make an accommodation.
Senator, what I'm trying to do here, we cannot convene the associations and the governor again to run a meeting to determine a public participation. That's why I'm leaving an open-ended guidance. Right? We are giving a guidance. We are already determined that the meeting must continue at the National Land Commission. But we can't live here and they say that when the National Land Commission makes a determination, then we reconvene the governor and reconvene the associations to make a decision on the issue of public participation. Because the substantive issue that has come here is the issue of what I would call a satisfactory public participation. And Governor, I'm giving you and the Residential Association an open, in that engagement, an open framework for which then you must conduct the public participation. Should it come out that the decision is that the residents don't own the land, then you must have the meeting with the tenants with whom you have had an engagement. And even if you to conclude that, because this is you're serving in public trust, assume that the National Land Commission says that this land belongs to the residents. I don't think that you just have a closure that, okay, I'm taking the books that has been decided, I'm closing the books. I think the public participation process can, if you wish to,
Point of order, Chair.
can still go on that conclusion. So I'm giving you an open book that the major point is that that meeting happens after the National Land Commission meeting. Then the last thing here would be after the public participation that will happen after the National Land Commission, we will require the county government to actually appraise this committee with the documentation of that public participation, how it has been done, whether it's proper, and then we'll take it from there. I think that is the third point on which the committee will now be able to engage after that public participation. On the matter of relocation allowances in Hoodley, we will have